Welcome back, everybody, to Watcher of All Things. My name is Kiki, and this is my podcast where I talk movies, TV shows, and all things entertainment. And today, it's a fun one. It's a violent one. Episode 73, where we are talking Ballerina from the world of John Wick. There's a second title for it, a story from the world of John Wick, Ballerina, but let's just go with Ballerina. That's what's on the poster. You know what? I had a sneaking suspicion from a few of the trailers that I saw and some behind-the-scenes reporting based on reshoots that we're going to talk about today that this movie could be okay, and it's going to be a fun discussion. But before that, we have so much news to get to. My God, there's some juicy stuff, including a video game trailer that I'm dying to talk about, as well as the What Else I Watched segment later in the show. I watched, I think, 8 or 9 movies this week, and I watched a lot of TV, including a full season of an old season of Survivor. So you're going to get your money's worth today, even though this is a free show, but there's so much good stuff to talk about. Before all of that, what a week it's been. Couple things to plug before we get into the news of the episode. My YouTube video from May ranking all the Mission Impossible films, as well as Ethan Hunt's hairstyles. It's on the channel. Go check it out. A lot of fun. Thank you for everyone that replied or commented or anything or messaged me about it, giving me their rankings and stuff. It's a lot of fun to hear just about his hairstyles in general. Also, a couple milestones that I'm happy to share about the show. We've reached 300 subs on YouTube, which is so cool, and 1,500 downloads. Really sweet. Like a year ago, I would have thought, oh, there's going to be 0 downloads or 0 subscribers for this, but it's so much fun to see us building this little thing, and I'm enjoying it. It's literally what I look forward to every single week, so thank you all so much for listening. It's been so much fun, and I look forward to doing a lot more. Episode 73 is just the beginning. As for today, timestamps below. If you don't want to know anything about Ballerina because you want to go in completely cold, or you just want to know what's in the trailers, stick to the non-spoiler section. I will not spoil anything, so all those good timestamps are below. But for now, let's jump into the news. All right, our first piece of news, finally we have the Andor streaming numbers for Season 2. According to Deadline, Andor hit another series high in the lead up to its final episodes, generating 830 million minutes viewed from May 5th to May 11th. The Star Wars series came in 5th on the Nielsen's streaming list, continuing its growth trajectory since the Season 2 premiere. Nielsen says that since the second season premiered on April 2nd, Andor has been the most watched streaming title among Asian viewers by a significant margin, with a total of 215 million viewing minutes generated by that demographic alone. The 4 seasons took number 1, the show with Tina Fey, Steve Carell. It's the Netflix original series, but Andor did extremely well in demographics that they probably wouldn't have thought. But it's really cool to see how the success of the show, and I feel like week to week, more people were getting into it because of all of this online discussion. Even with the 3 episodes week to week, I do think there was still that cultural impact where people were, being talked into starting it, just like The Pit. Like, I didn't start The Pit until episode 13, and I only started it because of all the online positivity that I had seen. And I feel like the same was with maybe for non-Star Wars fans, or even casual Star Wars fans, or people that maybe only saw Rogue One because it was in theaters a few years ago. They were like, oh, okay, I'll check this out, and I like Diego Luna. Or there's Tony Gilroy fans. I don't know if you're a Tony Gilroy fan, sound off in the comments, but it's good to see that a good program like this is getting rewarded in streaming numbers. And I mean, the whole streaming numbers thing is kind of confusing because I feel like some certain streamers are fudging their numbers of like, wow, it's the most watched show ever, or it's the most searched for show ever, like Red One, or most Netflix stuff. I feel like they are fibbing and fudging the numbers a little bit, but I think Andor, I could totally believe it, because the entire run of Season 2, every week I saw someone new tweeting like, oh, just started Andor, I'm absolutely in love with the show, or whatever it may be. And by the finale, I felt like I saw so many new people actually catching up with the show so they could watch the finale live, which exactly what I did with The Pit. So that's just reinforcing this idea of the week-to-week releases. Even if it is 3 episodes every week, it was like a mini arc every week, so I sort of got it, and I think they got away with it a little bit. For regular shows, like, I mean, oh my God, last weekend they just put out the Stranger Things 5 schedule. I talked about it in a video on Monday, but it's Thanksgiving, I guess, in the States, November 26th, and then Christmas Day, and then New Year's Eve are the 3 release days for these 3 volumes of episodes. It's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. At that point, just go week to week, because you're going to get the 6 weeks of episodes that you're looking for, I guess. It doesn't really make sense to me. And yes, Stranger Things has obviously had a big cultural footprint, and it's like one of the most popular and known shows. Even if you stopped watching, you know of Stranger Things season 1, or you know it by name. It's the most popular Netflix thing Reckoning ever. But I feel like season to season, because it takes so long to make the show, a lot of people kind of confuse the seasons or they forget about it from season to season. Like, honestly, I roughly remember what has happened each season, but I'm not like, oh yeah, there's a very clear storyline that I remember from that season. Or, I have the sort of blurs of what happened. Like the Australian actor dude, Charlie, whatever his name was in season 2 as the lifeguard. Then there's the spin-off that they attempted with 11 with all those other kids. Last season was it Vecna, the basement guy who was creepy looking? I'm sort of able to track what each season is like. I just remember a lot of de-aging or weird makeup last season on Millie Bobby Brown that I was like, oh, this is creepy to watch. But anyways, back to Andor. I'm happy the streaming numbers are pumping up for this. Let's move into our next story. Tom Cruise officially earned a Guinness Book of World Record title for his Mission Impossible stunt in the third act of The Final Reckoning. So if you don't want to know anything about it, well, it's in all the trailers, I guess. So the 4-time Oscar nominee set the record for most burning parachute jumps by an individual after jumping out of a helicopter 16 times with a fuel-soaked chute set ablaze in a stunt for the final installment in the action franchise. Quote, Tom doesn't just play action heroes, he is an action hero, said Craig Glenday from the Guinness Book of World Records, editor-in-chief, in a statement. A large part of his success can be chalked up to his absolute focus on authenticity and pushing the boundaries of what a leading man can do. It's an honor to be able to recognize his utter fearlessness with this new Guinness World Record title. That's really cool, and I'm happy, even if it's not the most perfect or most flawless, or it is massively flawed movie, The Final Reckoning, I'm glad that, there's going to be some stamp in the history books for it. And I saw, some scuttle online this weekend that was like, oh, well, it's not doing that well at the box office. But the people on Reddit that I saw who posted that, I was like, it just came out in China last week. And then I saw a tweet at the very same time, Mission Impossible is having incredible legs at the box office right now. Like, it had another insane Wednesday and it only had like a 45% drop, I think. Like, it's very steady every time. Look, I went to the theater 4 times this week, 4 times, and every night the Mission Impossible screenings were absolutely packed. And I saw the IMAX screen every single night was packed with people, even though I wasn't going to see it, although I almost did because one of my movies was canceled this week. But it's great to see that not only are there going to be history books or record books talking about this franchise, but it's cool that if they don't do another Mission Impossible thing, if this is the end for the franchise, which I don't think it is, let's be real, I think in 5 years they'll do a spin-off of something. It's fun to see that Tom Cruise is going to be in the history books for what I thought was a really good stunt sequence overall with the biplanes at the end of the movie, but I'm happy for him that he gets this little bit of recognition. All right, our next story comes from Deadline, who said there have been major layoffs underway Monday at the Walt Disney Company, with several hundred employees impacted globally. The bulk of them are across divisions of Disney Entertainment, including marketing for both films and television, as well as television publicity, casting, and development. Also affected are Disney's corporate financial operations. The size of the cuts on the film and TV side of Disney Entertainment is comparable. No teams are being eliminated. The majority of the Disney Entertainment television staffers are said to be based in Los Angeles. This is the 4th and largest round of layoffs in the past 10 months that has affected various Disney television operations. They are part of an ongoing cost-cutting process at the traditional media companies as they reshape their business to focus on streaming while facing economic headwinds. Disney's Bob Iger set the pace upon his return as CEO, establishing a goal of at least $7.5 billion in cost reductions at the start of 2023, with about 7,000 jobs eliminated that year. That's just crazy. And sometimes, they are literally, it's Disney, and it's like, oh, it's this cute, childhood thing. I love Disney and Disney World, and there's so much magic associated with it, versus, in the last 20 years, it's just this evil corporation that just guts its people and is, not exactly trying to represent everyone in life. They're very quick to bend the knee and cut things out of movies for not offending anyone because they don't want to show proper representation. They're like, no, let's edit that out. We're not going to include these representation things. And they're obviously going to pull back on their DEI. And it doesn't surprise me that they're just going to completely reshape for streaming, because Disney recently, all of their movies in theaters have just not done phenomenally. I think Lilo and Stitch is really the only one that's making some major headwinds, or I feel like they're just, even if their movies do make a lot of money, they're not earning enough back based on their budgets. Like Elio, a movie that's coming out very soon, I think is it next week or the week after? I'll probably go see it, but it was a $300 million movie for an animated Pixar film. I could not understand how that budget got up to $300 million. Maybe there was a bunch of reworking, rewriting, and they almost had to do it twice, but $300 million million for a simple animated film that could be done for probably 100 million or 90 million or something like that. It's wild how much these Disney budgets are ballooning, and 300 million when they've barely been marketing it. Like, I haven't seen really one public poster, or I've only seen the trailers in theaters, and that's it. I don't know how anyone in the general public is supposed to know, hey, there's this new kids movie coming out called Elio that you should take your family to. They've put all of their eggs in one basket with Lilo and Stitch. They've refused to advertise for Elio. They're sort of giving it the Ironheart treatment, where I feel like I'm finding out about it a couple weeks before it even comes out, which doesn't Ironheart start next week or the week after? Like, that's crazy how we've had 1.5 trailers, kind of like there was the Disney sizzle reel at the start of the year, and then there's just been the one trailer that they dropped on the same day as the Superman trailer, and I feel like the Ironheart trailer just got crushed. I feel bad for everyone involved. Like, it's so sad when your studio just does not push for, any attention to be drawn to your project, and it just gets buried in the marketing of other films. And obviously, it's very hard to get people's attention nowadays. Like, the amount of money that is spent on marketing in films, I think people don't realize. Like, just this week, a story came out that said the Superman movie this summer has a $200 million marketing campaign, and it's doing the Barbie marketing campaign, but even bigger, like double that, because they really need this to be a hit. And apparently Warner Brothers is very confident in it. That's why they are confident spending so much money, just like the Barbie movie. They knew that was going to be publicly very well received, and they think people are going to really like the Superman movie. So it's interesting how I think sometimes, even if a movie is not good, it gets tons of marketing, and then there's other times where, I don't know, it's just so random when studios decide to market their films. But okay, the final story before we hop into Ballerina, and then once we're done Ballerina, we have a very, very hefty What Else I Watched segment today for you. There was a first trailer for 007 First Light, a new James Bond game that comes from the Hitman developers, and I didn't know the trailer was coming this week. I had no clue. I had not really thought about this game for a little while. I feel like I was thinking about Bond, and maybe after I put my Mission Impossible video out, I was like, oh, I should go back and watch like all 25 Bond films, because I do think there are 2 or 3 that I haven't seen, like On Her Majesty's Secret Service, the George Lazenby one, and then I think Thunderball, and I think those might be the only 2 that I haven't seen ever. It's only because when I was younger, they were really hard to find on DVD for some reason, but now, I mean, Amazon has them all, or you can buy box sets with every single Bond film. So I don't know, that might be after this summer once, because I have so much stuff planned this summer, not just for the show, but also I'm going on vacation in August, so there will still be new episodes. But anyways, Bond is back. They're doing a young James Bond where he's earning his 00, I suppose, or it's almost like a little sliver of the start of Casino Royale where he has to earn his 00. It's where he's like just joining the service, and it looks really fun. I think the action looks phenomenal. I have never played the Hitman games. I've only seen like playthrough or my friends playing them, and they always look so cool. So I was kind of confident that this was going to be good. And the first trailer, I sent it to my brother right away, because we're both huge Bond fans, and he was also like, oh yeah, this looks so cool. Just like looking at the online comments, some people complaining about how he looks, that he looks young and he has like a relevant haircut to today, but he has the scar on his cheek that I think is talked about in a lot of Ian Fleming's books. I don't know, there's something about like people complaining about looks in some comments that I've seen, but then mostly very positive. Like, I have seen a lot of people being, especially Bond fans, being like, oh, we're finally getting a James Bond game, since I think the last one was like Bloodstone or something like that on GameCube or Xbox or something a long time ago. I had a couple of Bond games when I was a kid, GoldenEye, and then I think there was a World Is Not Enough game, and then there was another one, I can't remember what it's called, but it was a third one that I had on my PlayStation 2. I had 2 of them on Nintendo 64 and then 1 of them on my PlayStation 2, and I can't remember what the third one is, but like obviously I grew up during the Brosnan era in his last couple movies, and then moved into Daniel Craig the rest of my life, of course. So I've always been a big Bond fan. Like, I've rewatched all of the movies except 2, really. I've just never gotten to Thunderball. I feel like I have seen, though. Is there not an exploding, like a big exploding facility with a helicopter pulling away, or is that Moonraker? I can't remember, but definitely I've never seen the George Lazenby one. But you know what, that might be a mission for the next little while, or in the fall, go back. But if you haven't seen the trailer for the new Bond game, looks really great. Action looks top notch. notch. I like the story. I like that they actually use the music from On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I know all of the Bond songs. I just haven't seen the movie. I like that they are taking all of these different little themes from the franchise. It was really great. I'm like so happy. It was one of the coolest things I saw this week that just put me in a good mood. I was like, I'm so ready for 2026 for a Bond game. I'm honestly maybe more excited for this than GTA 6. Well, ooh, I don't know. Okay, maybe that's a crazy thing to say. I'll calm down a bit. I'm a huge Bond fan and I'm ready for a good James Bond game, but that has been the news this week because I want to get to Ballerina because I do have a lot to say about it, and then I have tons to talk about and what else I watched. I was going to talk about the vice chairman of Lionsgate who actually made the John Wick movies and Ballerina, talking about how, oh, we can use AI to change the rating of our films and, oh, now make it animated and family friendly and all that stuff. I don't think I have the mental capacity for that today. So you know what? Let's hop into Ballerina. Timestamps below, the non-spoiler, spoiler section. Let's do this. Ballerina. From the world of John Wick, Ballerina is a 2025 action thriller film coming in at 2 hours, 5 minutes. Google has it at an hour 29. That's not true. This is a 2 hour, 5 minute film. It is directed by Len Wiseman, which we'll talk about Len Wiseman today. It's written by Shay Hatton. Budget of 80 to 90 million, which I think is very good. Reviews are currently quite positive with 72% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 93% audience score, 7.4 on IMDb, currently has a 3.5 average on Letterboxd with 4 being the mode rating, so widely positive. I think right now the public feeling is like not a mind-blowing, flawless movie, but very solid and like a worthy entry in the franchise or in this series. The synopsis for Ballerina, taking place during the events of John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, Eve Macaro begins her training in the assassin traditions of the Ruska Roma. The film stars Ana de Armas as Eve Macaro, Angelica Houston as the director, Keanu Reeves is of course here as John Wick, Norman Reedus as Daniel Pine, Lance Reddick in his final role, I believe, as Chiron, Catalina Sandino Marino as Lena, Ian McShane returns as Winston, Gabrielle Byrne is the Chancellor, who's the villain of this film, Sharon Duncan Brewster as Nogi, Robert Masser as Dext, who you might recognize from Rogue Nation, 1917, very fun actor who's been in some fun stuff like Uncharted, I think he's in that too, and some other fun players that pop up, like actually there's Abraham Papula, who was in like the Marvels, Morbius, Ballerina, I think he was in, not The Carpenter, what's The Working Man? The Working Man with Jason Statham this year. I think he's in that movie as well, but he's a lot of fun. The cast is really good here, but my initial thoughts on Ballerina, I'm very happy to say I actually had a lot of fun watching this. It's extremely solid. I said at the start of the show, the last trailer, I think, because, you know, at the movie theaters, it's hard to avoid the trailers. Obviously, I see the trailer for every movie. I very rarely go into a movie completely blind, other than maybe a couple movies that I'm going to talk about, new ones in what else I watched today. But I saw the second trailer for this movie a few months back and I was like, oh, I think this movie might be good. I had a sneaking suspicion going into this. I think the action looked really good. I will say it's not perfect. It's definitely a flawed film, but did I have fun? Absolutely. And is there all the stuff that you would want from a John Wick film? Totally. Let's talk about the production and the development of this film, however, because it's actually been in the works for quite a while. So back in July 2017, Lionsgate actually acquired Shay Hatton's action thriller Ballerina, which itself was inspired when Hatton viewed the trailer to John Wick Chapter 2. So at the end of the year, the script was voted onto the blacklist of best unproduced screenplays in 2017, which basically is a list of all these screenplays that have just, you know, pretty much are dead in the water, but then are really good screenplays and people should pick up. So by October 2019, Len Wiseman was hired to direct the film. May 2020, it was reported that Chloe Grace Moretz was sort of the template of the actor that they were looking to hire. Chad Stahelski met with Wiseman and approached executives to hire the filmmaker. He confirmed that he and his team will work closely with Wiseman on the action sequences and stunts for the film, while acknowledging that Wiseman's filmmaking style will add variety to the franchise. By October 2021, Ana de Armas had entered negotiations to play the titular character, a ballerina assassin, but the production issues did not stop there because actually during shooting, Chad Stahelski reshot a significant portion done in Prague, but without director Len Wiseman actually present. Now, yes, there is some hearsay, but I think it does show in the film that Len Wiseman did not direct large portions of this, or at least none of the action. I think there's one action set piece that I was like, okay, if that were in a John Wick movie, it would be pretty subpar because some of the blocking is just like not what we would normally see. But let's start with the performances, because I think we want to jump into the actual lead. Ana de Armas as Eva. I think she's really great here. Like, she leads the hell out of this movie. She's a freaking powerhouse. She does the action so well and has such an insane, freaky energy to her that she is just so over the top and vengeful. I like that it's not it's like a her story, like trying to make John Wick but female. She's in this universe and feels like this entire other section of the world while letting John Wick also exist. And I like that. They make her her own character, and they have this whole thing like fight like a girl and using those disadvantages that she has, like her strength and her height, in comparison to some of these goons that she's going to be taking down in nightclubs and all of these bigger brawling type dudes. And I like that they're like, you're going to be at a disadvantage, so here is how you solve that. It's fun. It's sort of stripping away the plot armor and making it part of the story almost. As for Angelica Houston as the director, she's a fun overlord type lady that's the director of the Roscaroma, but I don't know, she's like sort of just hovering in the background, doesn't really bring that much. She's not overly involved, which I like. It's not constantly cutting back to her every scene, and there are some very funny sequences with the two of them. As for Keanu Reeves as John Wick, let this guy retire. I think this was maybe his worst performance as John Wick. He is stiff. You can tell he's struggling to move. He looks like his knees are just completely gone, which is what he has said about the John Wick franchise, that he can't do this anymore. And oh man, it was just like brutal. Every scene with him, I'm like, oh, he is not moving with the speed he did 10 years ago, eh? There's also one shot that's from the trailer where he's getting off a train, but then after it cuts to like this far away shot of him just walking, and I swear to God, it's either AI generated or a full CGI shot, because that is not the proportions of his body. He looked completely off. He had arms like Gumby. It was so weird. Norman Reedus as Daniel Pine, he is in this. I feel like the trailers kind of show that he's playing this big part, and I thought he was going to be a way bigger part. He's not really in it a lot. I think he has 3 scenes maximum, and that's it. He has like a storyline with his daughter that I didn't really find that interesting. I don't know. I guess it's like kind of the emotional baggage or the weight to the story that has to motivate Eve, but I just felt like it didn't really have a full payoff, or I didn't really care that much. Like, it's a thinly laid out revenge story, really. Lance Reddick returns in this, of course, and it's his final role. It was very sad to see him on screen, and actually someone like a few seats over to me, as soon as he came on screen, like you could hear them whisper to the person next to them. I'm like, oh man, I forgot Lance Reddick is in that. And it was just like a really sad feeling seeing him on screen. As for Ian McShane returning as Winston, he's great as always. I never watched the Continental, was that the TV show? I never watched it, but I kind of want to now because it's the only thing in this universe that I haven't seen. Gabriel Byrne as the Chancellor, he's a very boring villain. Didn't care at all. I wasn't that interested. He never really has any fun moments where I was like, oh wow, I really want to hate this guy. I was like, okay, generic villain, just get back to the flamethrower fights, but whatever. Then the final person I just want to talk about briefly, and it really kills me to say this because I love her so much. She's great in Andor. She's great in Dune, but Sharon Duncan Brewster as Nogi, she's absolutely terrible in this movie. I could not understand what her accent was doing here, because it's like she goes from like some kind of African accent to Russian accent, like scene to scene, and I was like, is she trying to do this hybrid, I don't know, synchronization of the two, of like a Russian African accent? It was so confusing. And then there's other scenes where it just sounded like she had an American accent, and I was just not good. But overall, I do think the cast is pretty fun in this movie, especially Ana de Armas is a great lead. But let's talk about the story. If you're going into this movie expecting some deep, I don't know, historical, philosophical tale that's really going to touch you and really going to make you think about your life in a different perspective over the next few days, go see something else, because this movie will not be that. It is a very thinly lined revenge story. It's just straight up like a John Wick rehashing, very formulaic, I would say, in its story, and it's kind of like what all these movies are. John Wick needs to get revenge, or he's being hunted down. There's no real character growth in this movie is what I could say. Like, I'm not sure there's a single real character arc. Even Eve, like Eve does go through this journey, but from the start of the movie to the end of the movie, she's kind of always like at the same point in a way. There is one training montage with her at the start of the movie, sort of, that I thought, oh, this really works. Like, I'm actually really rooting for her now, and it's fun to see her just like getting into her own and learning and really pushing herself, and it was just so well done. But the story is just very like John Wick, but other reasons they need revenge. Because there's so much Chad Stahelski involvement in this film, I think this movie really does fit well within the John Wick universe. Like, obviously John Wick is in it. He shows up at the start of the film and then he's involved in this whole other piece where you see them fighting in the trailer, right? But I actually think this movie stands on its own really well within this universe, and I wasn't ever watching this being like, why are we doing this? I feel like we're not adding anything to the universe. I think we totally did add something to this universe, and it was a fun inclusion. And I think just tonally and obviously action-wise, if Len Wiseman did take a big backseat, I could see why this fits so well. And like, yeah, the directing in general, it's very clear to see who filmed what, I think. I don't know what I believe. I think definitely there were issues along the way, and Emerald Fennell came in to rewrite a bunch of the script, which, yeah, we could definitely tell because there are some brutal emotional moments here that I'm like, ugh, God, that's very Saltburn or whatever. You can tell there is some reworking going on within this movie that is a little bit apparent with some reshoots, but I want to jump into the writing for a moment of this actual story, speaking of rewrites and stuff like that. The first 25 minutes of this movie were a real drag for me. It's obviously, you see her childhood. They're doing the classic origin thing where you see why she joins the Roscoe Roma, and I couldn't care less. I honestly wish this movie was just about this one girl in the Roscoe Roma, and we start with her there instead of showing her childhood and like what her revenge tale is going to be. I wish we maybe got some flashbacks throughout the film, or at least the first act, just like spread the flashbacks out a little more evenly rather than, oh, the first 25 minutes, let's start with her as a child. It was just like a real drag. I'm like, just get to Ana de Armas. And then it made me enjoy all of the Ana de Armas training stuff in the academy even more after the first 25 minutes when she's like really coming into her own, not just as a ballerina, but as like this assassin spy type lady. It was really cool once we hit that phase at the academy. That's when the movie really won me over, like, oh, I think this is actually going to be really good. And I do think there's a bit of a pressure on Shea Hatton to include things from the other movies. I don't know. I don't really feel like we needed another Continental, like, oh, we need to see the Continental in Prague, or we need to continue to push on this like worldwide network type thing. But at the same time, it is a John Wick movie, so it's fun seeing all of the John Wick isms and like the gold coins or whatever, just like, you know, kind of like Andor, I have friends everywhere. There's a lot of those vibes going on in this movie of like, oh, that's that assassin. And of course you see like the worldwide bounty thing from all the John Wick movies. I like that stuff, but there were a couple times like, I don't know, okay, we'll just talk about the John Wick inclusion and how poorly written his sequences are. He has one scene at the start of the movie that I think works really well, but John Wick's inclusion after that first scene should not have been there. He has this sequence towards the end of the movie, or he's in the third act of the movie that's all in the trailer of this like wintry, snowy town. He comes on screen and then he's instantly taken off screen and he's just looming around. And it's like, oh yeah, we got to remind people that this is a John Wick movie or this is in the John Wick universe. And it just felt very almost disrespectful to Ana de Armas and like the Eve character, that she's not good enough to stand on her own, so we have to have John Wick in there to connect these movies. Whereas I actually was just enjoying this movie when it was Eve by herself doing all of these missions and on this overall hunt or this goal. It was way more interesting. And every time John Wick came on screen, I kind of like, I just let out a big sigh, like, all right, I guess we're gonna do this. And he felt almost very glup shitto in a Star Wars way of like, oh, it's that character you know from the other movie, oh my god, the Baba Yaga. Kind of boring. I don't know, it's just, that was one thing I really didn't enjoy about the writing. There is this weird issue in this movie where they have these henchmen of the villains and they're just constantly there and they keep cutting back to the henchmen and they keep showing up and I'm like, who are you? Like, I don't even know your name. I don't know, do you work for this person directly? Like, what is your deal? There's this one guy who's a sniper in the film and then they have this big fight and I was like, dude, who are you? Why should I care that she's fighting you right now? Like, it's a 2-hour 5-minute movie. I feel like we could have found out a little bit more about some of the villains in this film, because I mean, our main villain, Gabriel Byrne, who plays the Chancellor, sort of I don't know, I have like a 4 out of 10 interest in him. I was like, okay, I get it, he's this guy. And I'm not going to say actually what like the evil sort of thing is in this movie, because I think it is a lot of fun to find out going into it, non-spoilers, like, oh, that's what this, like, who she's up against. I just feel like there's a lot of characters that are included in this film that I'm like, who are you? Why should I care that you're fighting her right now? But let's talk about the action. The action is balls to the wall, fantastic. The John Wick action, like all 4 movies, fantastic. Maybe 4 is the best action one. I don't know. I feel like 4 was just like a whole different breed. Like you have the staircase sequence and stuff like that. It's just like so much fun. But all 4 John Wick movies are so much fun, and I really love how inventive they are and constantly adding like new things and new action set pieces and fun little things. It's like the Mission Impossible franchise. They're so good at reinventing and being really resourceful of like, okay, how can we get this character out of this situation, or what's a fun gadget that they can use? And I think they don't pull any punches with Eve. She not only gets the shit kicked out of her multiple times in this film, like, oh my god, she's actually getting thrown around. And again, that's the writer doing a really good job of acknowledging that she is a lot smaller. Like she's, I don't know how tall Ana de Armas is, probably 5'4", 5'5", something like that, or 5'6". And they do a really good job acknowledging all of the power dynamics in her fights. Like every fight, like when she's going through her training montage at the start of the movie, her coaches like in the trailer tell her you have to change the terms of the fight and you're always going to be at a disadvantage, so use that. Like you got to cheat, you got to fight dirty, whatever it is. And I feel like this movie constantly does a really good job making her have the underhand and really throwing her around. What she's so good at is just having willpower and just being relentless. Like she just doesn't give up, and that's her superpower, is like she's changing the terms of like, you can throw me around as much as you want, but I'm gonna find all this random stuff in whatever room we're in to use to my advantage. And it's just so much fun, and I feel like the stunts are really good in this for the most part. There's 2 stunt sequences where, oh boy, could you tell that it was not Ana de Armas doing this, or if it was, they have some weird CGI filter over her that maybe she was wearing more protective gear and they had to CGI it out. But there's one instance where she's using a flamethrower, and there's a couple times where she's running away from a flamethrower or using it that I'm like, that does not look like Ana de Armas at all. That looks like a very clear stunt double, and it kind of made me giggle a little bit in the theater. So maybe it's not as like flawless as the John Wick movies where it always looks exactly like Keanu Reeves doing all of this, but what can I say? Sometimes that happens in movies, unless you're Tom Cruise. But speaking of gadgets, I think they do a great job presenting new gadgets and new, oh, she is only restricted to this in this entire fight sequence. Like she's restricted to this box of grenades, this box of smoke bombs. There's an entire flamethrower fight sequence in this movie that goes on for like 20 minutes. One of the best action sequences I've seen this year. It was so much fun. It's so over the top and stupid, which I love. I just love when these movies are willing to be goofy and acknowledge how silly they are sometimes. It was just really good. There's also one instance on her first mission where she has to use a certain type of bullets, and I don't want to spoil it just because it's going to surprise you in the movie when you watch it, of like, and there's so many restrictions on her first mission too. But again, my favorite thing about this movie is just Eve's resourcefulness and how good she is at just using what's around her. Just like John Wick, she is so good at just finding something in the room and being like, all right, this is all I got. And there's a couple times where she even like uses her own equipment that she has and combines things, and it's so much fun to see like, oh, what crazy shit is she gonna come up with in this scene, and every time it does not let you down. I will say they do a very interesting thing at the start of the movie in sort of highlighting the difference between sadness in your life and like sadness and anger or loss in your life. There's one student and her that are in the academy together, and it sort of compares the two and why Eve is the way she is and why she's a great assassin, and all the stuff that they're doing with that is really good, like thematically. However, I do think they're trying to talk about fate versus choices in this film, and actions and consequences, and I just didn't really feel a general theme playing out in this film. Like I never felt like they're constantly hearkening back to this thing, or Eve is being reminded of fate, of choices, or whatever it is. Like someone says to her very early in the film, you always have a choice, and I don't know, it feels like a lot of really interesting things that are being said to her don't really get brought up again, or I'm like, oh, is that the theme of this film? It's not really symmetrical thematically throughout the film. I feel like they're kind of losing what they want their hinge point to be, of like, okay, what are we going to really put this film on? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a movie about vengeance and revenge, and I don't know, is the point that sometimes revenge is just the right thing, or sometimes you do need to make your own choices for revenge? It's a little bit messy in that sense, and I feel like they were just so focused on making the action as good as possible, and sometimes that's all you need at the end of the day. Like I wasn't complaining, to be honest. I was like, okay, whatever, at least we got a really fun revenge story with just some of the best action this year by far. And they do give us some twists. Like the trailers don't really show what the villains are in this film, and when it was revealed sort of in the last hour, I was like, oh, this is like really weird, and I feel like we haven't got this in a John Wick movie so far, and this is like such an out there idea that I really enjoyed. So there are twists that you won't expect in this film, and there is like some character inclusions that are big twists of like who they are in this universe. That's sort of worked on me, but then as soon as that character shows up, like they're about to get killed, and this is going to be another layer on the revenge story as well. So it's interesting. I think there are some moments where the writing is good here and it's like trying to do things, but then they just sort of don't follow up on it, or they completely go back on their own word. As for what's next in the John Wick franchise, I believe they have another John Wick movie coming out. They're going to do a John Wick 5, even though he died in the last film. Spoilers. I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe it's a movie that takes place between 3 and 4, and there's like a 5 years ago or something like that. And there's also an animated prequel film, I believe, as well as I think Donnie Yen is also doing a John Wick film. All of this was announced earlier in the year at CinemaCon. I believe Lionsgate announced it then. So good. I hope they do more. Will there be a sequel to this? I don't know. I'll talk about it in spoilers if I think there will be, but let's get to 2 Stars and a Wish. If you don't know what 2 Stars and a Wish is, when I was in high school and people gave presentations, you would give them 2 stars and a wish. The 2 stars being 2 things you liked about their presentation, the wish being, a healthy criticism or something they could have done better. So star number 1 for Ballerina. Amazing action and inventiveness. It never feels tired, never feels like it's relying on the same gadget for too long in the story. I think they do a really good job of changing it up every fight sequence, every action sequence of like, okay, different device, different thing that this fight is based around. And I think they just constantly keep it fresh, and that's why it's so entertaining. Star number 2, good directing. I think quote unquote Len Wiseman did a good job in the fight sequences. There's a lot of really fun shots, really great blocking in the fight sequences that just bring such intensity. Then there's some moments where you can tell this is not a director from the John Wick universe, and it's very obvious. As for my wish, just more depth to the story. I feel like there's, like I said a couple minutes ago, there's themes or there's things that they write into the story that they kind of go back on 5 minutes later. Like I'm like, oh no, I was totally into that if that's what you were going to introduce, but you're just going back on your word now, and so what's the point of introducing that in the first place? It feels like a rewrite or a retcon in your own movie, and it's just kind of a weird loop back, or just maybe more emotional stakes. I feel like this movie is very by the numbers, which sometimes that's all you need. But look, overall, this really worked for me. I think Ballerina was definitely worth watching on the big screen. I saw it in Laser Ultra, and the sound design was fantastic. Tyler Bates and someone else did the music. Tyler Bates did all the Guardians movies, and he did Superman as well, or he was one of the composers on Superman that's coming out this summer. I love his music, like Guardians. I love those soundtracks, and it'll make you want to rewatch the John Wick movies. Ballerina, honestly, gets a very surprising positive 3.5 out of 5 stars from me. I liked it a lot. Let's jump into spoilers. Okay, spoilers for Ballerina. Now I can talk about the opening 25 minutes, which are all about Eve's childhood. So her dad is killed in the first 25 minutes, and we find out she has a long-lost sister that she doesn't even recognize her. Of course, wink, wink, she's in the movie. Just the opening 25 minutes, I couldn't really care less. I was like, okay, we're gonna do this. It's just we have to watch someone get murdered. It's like the start of The Amateur. We always the hero needs someone to die so they can actually be motivated and start giving a shit about their life. And she's like 12 in it. It's so funny how different the child sounds from Ana de Armas as an adult. Like, she has nothing close to even the same accent, and a couple of very 80-yard lines with her face showing and saying the lines along with them, but they sound so rushed and different that I was like, what the hell was that? Anyways, the first 25 minutes of this movie were easily the weakest part until she gets to the academy after her father is murdered and she joins the Roscoe Roma from Winston. I think it's just like, that's a big drag for a lot of people. I think you could have just started it with like a fun mission, and then you flash back to her childhood and why she's doing all of this. I think that would have been more fun, or you have her first training mission and stuff like that, and then she goes to sleep and there's a dream. Just, I don't know, there's a way more exciting way that you can show the flashback. I'm not a writer, I'm just saying, but once we hit that training academy, I was so in. As for the big villain society of this film, so this guy named the Chancellor comes to their house, and I guess her mom was part of the cult and he was too, but then he left with one of his daughters and they murdered his wife, Eve's mom, and now they've come to kill him at his house. We never really find out what this cult is even called. Like, I don't think I ever gathered that from the movie. I didn't understand what the secret society was called. If you can, please comment down below, because I did not catch it. I might actually go see this movie in a couple weeks again, because I had a lot of fun and I thought the action was just really baller, but really I don't think the villains were drawn out or really written well at all. Like, I didn't really care. It's a generic villain that wants to steal kill Daniel Pine's, or whatever his name is, Daniel Pine's daughter, because she's part of the cult and Daniel wants to leave. So it's like, okay, I get it. So Eve has to save this daughter and father's relationship because she never got to save her own and stuff like that. It's like the adjacent storylines and adjacent revenge lines. I get it. Very by the numbers. It's not the worst thing in the world. And it's like, okay, at least there's something to care about in this film. But I do wish maybe her first mission could have been a little bit more tied in emotionally. I do like her whole first mission that she has to use these rubber bullets. It's in this nightclub that has like ice in it and stuff. I will say that was maybe the directing action wise that felt like maybe it was Len Wiseman. Like that to me felt very standard blocking and all of this stuff. It wasn't that like crazy entertaining. I was like, all right, fair enough. But after that, all of the action felt a lot more like John Wick universe, a lot more adjacent. Even her training montage, that felt pretty John Wick universe to me, which I really liked. But speaking of John Wick, let's talk about his inclusion. I like that this movie is taking place between 3 and 4. So you see John Wick come to the Roscoe Roma Academy, like headquarters in New York City, right? And you see him talking with the director, and then Eve actually goes up to him and says, like, how do I start doing what you do? How do I get out of here? He has a really good line that's like, it looks like you already have, and the front door is open and all this stuff, like saying basically the opportunities are out there, just go for it. You have it. You have this choice to open this door or whatever. Again, trying to maybe draw on choice and fate and all this stuff, but I feel like the writer doesn't really know what the theme of this movie is going to be. It's basically just a revenge plot or something like that, you know? I liked that scene with John Wick a lot. Like, I thought his inclusion in the first act, really good, really smart. You're connecting this universe overall. John Wick is part of it. It's fun. But then he's in the entire third act when she's in the cult's snow town and in Czech Republic, and I don't really like his inclusion because he shows up, he tells her it's time to leave, and he beats the shit out of her, and they're fighting and stuff, and he's about to kill her, and she says, please just give me till midnight. He murdered my family. He's like, I know, and he's super stiff. And then all of a sudden he's like, you have till midnight, and then he just goes and pieces out, hangs out in a clock tower with a sniper rifle. It's the most like backward inclusion. She's on this revenge mission. The whole town is after her. They send in John Wick. So the whole town is told, do not engage because John Wick is going to take care of her. Then John Wick hides in a sniper tower or whatever. The Chancellor immediately tells the town, re-engage, go find her. It's like, what was the point of bringing John Wick in? Just continue the hunt and have her hide out for a few hours until she can get to the Chancellor. Or you don't even need to have the Chancellor thing happen at night. You can just have it happen during the day where she hides out for a little bit, then she comes back. It was just a really weird writing choice that immediately I was kind of confused, like, wait, so why is John Wick here? He didn't need to show up at all in this if the exact same thing is happening right after 10 minutes later. And it's such a short scene where he tells her you have 30 minutes. It's probably 5 minutes, not even. So it's such a huge emotional swing or like a huge story swing. And then it just swings right back. And it's like, yeah, we just did that. We just did this. And now the stakes are the exact same as before, except there is a time crunch, but it never feels like midnight is really approaching and like, oh my God, John Wick is going to kill her and she's running out of time. Lackadaisical. And it's like, yeah, okay, she's obviously going to go get the bad guy. And it was just a little boring. And there is this other writing inclusion where it feels like they didn't fully think about the storyline with Daniel Pine's bounty. So the reason she's trying to find Daniel Pine is she knows he's part of this cult that she's after. And Winston tells her, we have this one cult guy held up in the Prague Continental. Go see him or whatever, have a conversation with him. And the reason he's being hunted and has a bounty on his head is because he's left the cult with his daughter, who is supposed to be part of the cult and be, you know, the next generation or whatever. So all of these assassins are after him and there's a bounty on him. Obviously the child gets taken because we have to motivate our hero even further, but then he just kind of pieces out and it's not really clear whether he's dead or alive for the rest of it until he shows up in the final scene in a hospital bed in the hotel and she brings his daughter back and it's like, oh, he's been around this whole time. And I just felt like there maybe should have been one more scene after she gets the shit smacked out of her, but also she gets kidnapped so she doesn't know he's alive. It was just a lot of really dysfunctional writing and not clearly laying out like what's going on. It's just a little bit messy in that sense of Daniel's inclusion, and I feel like there needs to be this aspect of like, I'll get you back to your dad, or I want to get that little girl back to her dad. It's sort of like a B story of like, oh yeah, and I can get the girl back. That's part of it, I guess. And they even kidnap Eve and take her to this town, or it's actually once she goes to the town herself, she gets caught and she has a showdown with the Chancellor, and she never says directly to his face, or she never recognizes him and says, you were in this group that killed my father. She just says, these people killed my father. Like, I thought she should have had a little bit more direct confrontation. It's a weird, like, side confrontation that I didn't really fully understand, or the scene just felt a little bit incomplete. I would have liked that final step of, like, you killed my father, you are to blame. But, like, did she not see him at the start of the movie? You really need to paint your villain as the villain and give us more to hate about him and more emotional weight to that dynamic, that, like, oh, she hates him because she recognizes his face. And I didn't really feel that in that scene. I was like, wait, you're not going to call him out for being there? We all saw him at the start of the film, because otherwise, what's the point of having him at the start of that film, or at the start of the film, if she's not even going to recognize him in the end? Just a very weird inclusion. Having said that, I do think the big cult reveal when we get to the hotel, I would say, or not even then, I feel like when she actually, Eve, gets to the town at the end of the movie and it's revealed that everyone in this town is part of this, like, military assassin trained cult, I thought that was so cool. Just an entire town of assassins that Eve is fighting her way through every house. Like, she goes through a butcher shop, she goes through a bar or like a lounge, après ski type thing, and you can see how surprised Eve is, like, going to building, and it's like, oh my god, what the hell is going on, that, like, every person is attacking her in this town. And it's really funny. As for the sniper dude, there is like there's this one henchman that's a sniper dude who shows up in the hotel in Prague. I guess he's part of the cult, but we never really learn who he is or what his deal is. And he's an actor I recognize, that I was like, who is this guy again? Daniel Bernhardt, that's his name. I recognize him from a bunch of stuff. So he was in Ballerina, but he's also in The Equalizer, Extraction 2, Guardians of the Galaxy. He's in 2 of them, and he does a lot of stunt stuff too. Red Notice, The Matrix Resurrections, Nobody, Birds of Prey, Fast and Furious, Hobbs and Shaw, Escape Plan, Barry. He's Ronnie in Barry. That's who he is, the karate guy. Oh my god, who has the psycho daughter that's chasing Barry all day. That's where I recognize him from. Okay. Oh my god, it was bothering me so much while watching the movie last night. Who the hell is this guy? What do I know him from? He's Ronnie. He's great. Yeah, he's funny as hell. Okay, well, anyways, he's this, like, sniper dude that's working with Eve's sister, who has secretly been living in this society her entire life. And I thought that was a fun inclusion. She gets killed 5 minutes later, so it's kind of a weird moment and a weird goodbye that I thought sort of worked, but it was, like, a bit rushed in my opinion. And then obviously we get to the end. John Wick is sitting in a sniper tower killing people that try to hurt Eve, and he even has his own action sequence. I was like, all right, fair enough, but god, Keanu Reeves was stiff in this. And then she ends up killing the Chancellor, of course, saving the little girl. Then she goes back home and there's a bounty put on her head. That's the final scene of the movie. She's back in New York City. She's at the Ballerina show, or the ballet, for her friend that left the academy because she wasn't good enough, and she has a normal life. And then she gets the notification on her phone that there's a $5 million bounty on her. Dun dun dun. Sequel setup. Honestly, I hope we get a sequel to this. Maybe you bring in Chad to direct it. You have the same writer, but then have Chad direct instead, so it's more streamlined and more cohesive tonally. I think Ana de Armas is a really good lead for the future of this franchise, because look, Keanu Reeves, I said it 3 times, he's too old for this. He's slow in the action scenes. He looks very stiff. He just seems tired when he's acting, and I feel bad for the guy. So I hope there is a sequel. I hope this does well at the box office too. I mean, I hope it makes its money back for sure. It's only 80 to 90 million. My screening last night was pretty decent, but I feel like Mission Impossible is still really taking a lot of the seats right now, and Lilo and Stitch, of course. But look, overall, Ballerina was a very positive experience for me, and I enjoyed it a lot. Go check it out. Even if you've listened to the spoiler section and you haven't seen it, go watch it anyway, because it's a lot of fun. But let's move into what else I watched. All right, what else I watched? Well, I actually have 8 movies, 4 TV shows, and a book to talk. Dear God, I've been just watching movies every day. I went to the theater for a double feature. Next week, it's going to be so many movies as well again, because I'm doing a double feature. I'm doing another screening Thursday night, of course, for next week's movie, and I have so many things that I'm actually catching up for, not just for this month's YouTube video, but before new releases come out. Like, I have to watch all the Jurassic Park movies before I see the new one, because I've only seen the first one. But I want to start with the TV show, so I'm going to skip the book this week, the New Avengers Volume 2, just because I did a video on it. If you want to hear about it, go to my socials, check that out. Let's start with the TV shows. Hacks. I said last week in my review, I believe, that it was the season finale, episode 9. There was another episode. Not only was I very confused, on the Hacks subreddit, everyone was shocked, like, oh, there's a 10th episode. I thought last week was the finale because it felt like a finale. And I have to say, the episode 10 immediately kind of undid everything I thought was going to happen in the show in the future. It's just they go to Singapore and she does comedy through a translator there. It felt like a bit of a wasted episode to me. I didn't really see a point for it. I think you could have ended on episode 9 and it would have set up a lot of really great questions for the rest of the show for the next season, which they have already greenlit. But I don't know. It was a really weird change up for me that I was like, oh, we have a 10th episode and it kind of just flew out of nowhere. So it was fun, but I thought it was a weirder finale. Then I watched Conan O'Brien Must Go episodes 2 and 3, where he is in New Zealand and Austria. Honestly, way better than the Spain episode, both of them for me. I thought the New Zealand one was really fun. He takes place in the world record biggest haka, and it was really cool. I think he does some fun cultural stuff that he's actually going into and like trying to involve himself in the culture a little bit more. And then obviously the Austria episode was really funny. I'm actually going to Vienna, and he went to a snow globe museum in Vienna, which I immediately sent to my girlfriend and was like, I want to go here. Very funny. But it was only 3 episodes, which I was surprised about. But I do think that I read correctly. They were actually filming in Austria when his parents passed away and during the LA wildfires. So who knows, there may have been more episodes lined up that they just decided to cancel, and they were like, you know what, we're going to go with 3. But it was unfortunate. I'm pretty sure they filmed a bunch of the Austria episode, and then his parents passed away around Christmas time, so he went home, and then they came back and shot a couple more things and edited it to the episode. But overall, I love Conan. I love that he has a travel show. I still haven't watched his Kennedy Center thing. I don't know, there's a couple of performers in there. I was like, I have no desire to hear them talk. But a couple Survivor seasons to talk about. Okay, my girlfriend and I watched Survivor Season 2, Australian Outback, episodes 4 to 15. Tina beating Colby in the final 4-3. I talked about last week when the season 50 cast announcements came out of like, I'm unsure how Colby's gonna do, and I wonder how he's gonna do socially. I have to say, my opinion on him, I haven't watched this season in forever. Like, I was probably 4 years old when I watched it for the first time as a child. I actually grew to have a lot more respect for Colby by the end of the season. Like, I felt like he really changed over the course of the game, and he even takes Tina to the final too because he thinks she deserves it over him instead of Keith. He's like, I know I could have won against Keith, but I'm going to take Tina because I respect her game and I respect her as a person, and they just have a very nice friendship at the end of the show. And I like that as soon as that winning vote was read, Colby was just pumped for her, and he's never even won the show ever, but he was a very fun finalist, and I'm excited to get to season 20, which was his last season that he played, Heroes versus Villains. I'm interested to see his gameplay there because I haven't watched that season in forever. After season 2 finished, great season, really loved it. I started season 3 Africa yesterday. I watched the whole season in a day, and it was funny because my girlfriend and I are planning on watching them all together, and then we had like just the finale left for Australian Outback. I said like, oh yeah, if you want to go ahead and watch it, that's fine, like we can watch it separately. And then yesterday I was like, hey, I might watch the start of Africa without you, and then you can catch up and we can watch them together next week. I just ended up binging the whole season yesterday. I will say, watching it, the political correctness is very different to today, and the casting that they have on the show is very different. They have Brandon, who is a very out and proud gay guy, and I really liked him a lot. Like, he's a little bit annoying, but he's funny. He actually like adds a lot of drama to it. But then they have Frank, who's this like military guy, very pro-gun, and has a lot of very interesting political takes that they talk about in the show. And actually, it's a lot of fun. And then they have this like big country guy, Big Tom. Apparently he was, he said to Brandon, I don't care about your sexual orientation, but some of the jokes he makes about the women are just brutal. Like, watching it now, you're like, oh my God, season is an HR nightmare. Having said that, there's some really great contestants on season 3 that I'm curious if they ever come back. Like, there's one contestant I really like named Kim Powers, and I was like, why was she never back on the show again, ever? I understand Ethan coming back because he wins this season, obviously, but to me, he wasn't even that interesting of a winner. I think he played a good social game, but other than that, I think there's another player on the show that deserved it a lot more than Ethan, who was voted out, during the merge, and it came very close. So I'm excited to start season 4. It's the first season with Boston Rob, so hopefully my girlfriend, if she's listening to this, first of all, happy birthday. Second of all, catch up on Survivor Africa because I want to start season 4. Let's get to the movies because I have 8 movies to talk about, and a couple of them I'm so excited to talk about. Not this one. The first one is Hannah Montana the movie. This was a one for you, one for me type situation that you get when you date someone for a long time. If you're a fan of the Hannah Montana show, obviously it would have been so cool to see the movie, but I asked my girlfriend after we watched it, like, oh, how much of this movie actually had a direct impact on the show? And she said like none of it. Like, there's 2 more seasons of the show, I think, and there was really no impact impact. Like, her identity is exposed and this whole town just keeps the secret. She gets a boyfriend in the movie, isn't in the show or whatever, and then she has a boyfriend in the final 2 seasons, I guess. Anyways, it's Hannah Montana the movie. I'm not going to lose sleep over it not being what I thought it was. 2 stars. Then I watched Talk to Me because I did see Bring Her Back this week, which we'll talk about in a couple moments. Talk to Me, amazing. I really liked it. It's just like solid, good horror. I love the makeup design and filmmaking, and it's really brutal too. I think a lot of the brutality that they have in Bring Her Back is weightless in comparison to Talk to Me. Like, there's a couple of moments in Talk to Me where I was like, oh, this is actually emotionally devastating to watch, but it never feels abusive or like coming from the wrong place. So if you haven't seen Talk to Me, I don't know why I didn't watch it last year. I think it was just a really busy time and I couldn't get to it for the podcast. So I'm very glad I watched it because it was a lot of fun, and I think the Philippe brothers are going to have a very interesting career. They're making a sequel to the film. I gave Talk to Me 4 stars. Then I'm still working my way through the DCEU. I haven't seen all the movies, so I watched Shazam as well as Birds of Prey this week. Shazam I hadn't seen. I had heard positive things back in 2019, but again, I was at university. I didn't have a car. It was hard to get to the theaters because it would have been an hour on transit for me, and that was just a lot at that time, especially with classes and soccer going on in university, but I watched it. It's very cute. I think there's a lot of really good family dynamics going on in it, and at the same time, was Zachary Levi and the Billy Batson actor did they never meet or talk about the characters? Like, did they never just have a conversation of like, here's how I think we should play him? Because he's completely different as a superhero versus when he's not Shazam and he's back to Billy. A little bit jarring. I do think the villain is pretty good. It's played by Mark Strong. He's Dr. Savannah. He was like maybe a generic villain, but he was fun and he brings a lot of great dynamics to every scene. So, you know what? Shazam is just a nice family superhero movie with a very nice home. I love the parents in the movie. Like, they're just so nice to watch, and it just like gives me hope in life that I'm like, oh, it's nice to have like these foster parents like them. 3.5 stars. Then I saw Bring Her Back in theaters in a double feature with Karate Kid Legends. What a change up tonally, going from one of the most disturbing, uncomfortable movies I've watched in theaters with Bring Her Back to Karate Kid Legends, which is just legacy sequel to the max, indulging in the worst possible habits of a legacy sequel. Bring Her Back, I said in my social review this week that it's messy as hell in parts, but these guys can definitely direct. Like, I think the Philippe brothers aren't maybe the right choice of directors I would use for this type of story. I did really like the final act of the film, and I really like the children's dynamics and the performers. All the performances are really good on Bring Her Back. Sally Hawkins in particular is just phenomenal. I thought she did a really great job. It's not my favorite movie of the year. I gave it 3 stars out of 5. I think it was just a little bit like leaving me wanting something when it wrapped up, and there could have been a lot more emotional development instead of just going for these really brutal sequences that were frankly hard to watch. As for the Karate Kid Legends movie, I walked out of it extremely disappointed and honestly just mad. There was so much potential for this film. I love the first Karate Kid movie with Pat Morita and Ralph Macchio. Like, that is my ultimate pump up movie when I want to get pumped about a sports event or I just need motivation. I watch Karate Kid, and seeing that combined with the Jaden Smith, Jackie Chan world, I thought honestly there's something here that could be done. This could be really great, but my God, it has some of the worst editing. It has some of the most rushed dialogue and writing, and the story is a fucking mess. Also, it has the worst soundtrack of a movie this year. There's Benson Boone in it. It's someone's TikTok algorithm just picking. It's like a Spotify DJ. Rushed, soulless, terribly edited, and maybe the worst soundtrack of the year, maybe ever. I don't know. There was just some moments from a character perspective where I'm like, these kids are like 18 or 17 and they're talking like 30-year-olds. Like, I want to make a few more mistakes tonight. It was very bad. 2.5 stars out of 5, only because the action was like pretty good in it and I like the fighting a lot. Now, no more new releases to talk about. So the only new releases I saw this week were Bring Her Back and Talk to Me. I went to the theater to watch 2001: A Space Odyssey as part of this landmark 60-year anniversary thing. We all sat there for 45 minutes and they had technical difficulties, had to cancel the show. We all got 2 free tickets each. So you know what? At the end of the day, it sucks, but at least we got 2 free tickets each. So I watched it at home and I've never seen 2001. It was fucking amazing. It's so ambiguous in the third act and there's just so much you have to process. It's incredibly slow. It's so tedious and it really requires a lot of patience. But honestly, half the time in the movie, I was wondering how they did these shots. Like, there's this one guy, he's jogging on the space station and the camera is watching him go around this loop. And I just don't understand, like, what direction is that spinning in? Where is the camera positioned? How is he staying in the same spot? Is he actually running around a room? Or like, what the hell? Kubrick was smoking some crazy shit when he made that. Also, just like thematically, it's incredibly deep about human evolution. I think now more than ever, the AI discussion in it of asking AI to do these things that are against its programming or against the ethics of it, that like it's not supposed to lie. I said in my Letterboxd review, big surprise, this 58-year-old movie that everyone loves, or most people that see it say it's one of the best movies ever, I thought it was pretty good. I gave it 4.5 stars because I really enjoyed it. Then another masterpiece, Magnolia from Paul Thomas Anderson. Never seen it. I'm going to try and watch all the PTA movies before One Battle After Another comes out this fall. So I watched Magnolia because I'm on a little bit of a Tom Cruise high right now. 3-hour and 8-minute movie. Fantastic. Big surprise. Again, one of the most like popular movies ever, or a huge movie that everybody loves. I thought was really good. There's like a 13-minute sequence where it's all these stories, like things happening, and there's just music building, and it's becoming so desperate. It's so sad, and everyone's so broken. And I love how Paul Thomas Anderson just writes about flawed people. I love movies with multiple storylines that don't necessarily cross over, but really show kind of the spectrum of experience in life, like death, love, guilt, or trauma. And there's just so many varying degrees here that are all circled around illness and abuse and death. And it's just like, what a cast. Everyone in this movie is an absolute knockout, and I was so happy I watched it. 5 stars, without a doubt. Final movie I watched this week, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, came out in 2020, part of my DCEU rewatch. I thought it was okay. I didn't love it. I thought it was, some parts were like really fun, but to me, if anything, I just liked how the movie was trying to have fun, and that Margot Robbie is just trying to have fun. It's formulaic and it has a very bad soundtrack, but it still had some joy in there, as underwritten as it was. 3 stars. So far this year, I'm at 144 movies watched, or 136 movies watched, but some of them I've watched multiple times, like Mission Impossible, like, I don't know, Sinners or Mickey 17. I've seen some movies multiple times, but that's been what else I watched. And in fact, I think that's going to do it for episode 73, Ballerina. A fun movie to talk about, a fun movie to watch, and honestly, I want to see it again. Let me know your thoughts on Ballerina, and as always, please rate and review the show, 5 stars, wherever you get your great podcasts, like Watcher of All Things, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Acast. We are, of course, an Acast-produced show. Give us 5 stars, drop a rating, drop a review. You can do it right in the comments on Spotify, right underneath on every platform. If you're on the YouTube channel where we just hit 300 subs, I'm very happy to have you all. Hit like, subscribe, comment down below. Where would you rank Ballerina in the John Wick universe of movies and the TV show? I'm curious. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can email us, watcherofallthings@gmail.com. You can also find me on social media. Instagram and Threads are at watcherofallthings. The TikTok account is at watcher.of.all.things. I do stuff for social media every single day. There's always new videos, short reviews, little things like that, clips from the show. It's very fun. I love making little videos for social media, so go check me out on all of those platforms. You can also find me on Letterboxd, my personal Letterboxd, KikiJ70. That's KIKIJ70. Follow me, drop a comment under one of my reviews that you found me through the show. I'll follow you back. Let's build a little community. Next week, I'm very excited. We're not doing How to Train Your Dragon. I have not seen any of those movies. I'm going to see it anyways, and I'm going to watch the first one, but I'm going to talk about The Materialists next week because I was a big fan of Past Lives. I thought it was a pretty good movie. I love Celine's song. That'll be next week's review, but for now, thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all for the love, the wonderful comments, the replies, the messages, all this good stuff. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.